What is up, y'all? Y'all are going crazy in the chat right now. Holy cow. You guys are awesome. Let me look, make sure my audio is good. Let me turn down. I actually have the Michigan game on, the Birds word. All righty. So, we all counted Nick Saban out, didn't we? I warned people about this, but I did it too because I picked Georgia to win this game. Alabama, 41-24 over the Georgia Bulldogs. What a game. Bryce Young, I think, now has the Heisman on lock. Jamison Williams, Biletnikoff on lock. What's up, Justin? Good to see you too. Man, that was something. The game started with Georgia going up 10-0. And we're all, I don't know. I was with a friend watching this game in a restaurant. We just went out to eat. And Georgia goes up 10-0. And I go, okay. And it was weird because that they go up 10-0 on the game. Let me pull up exactly. Yeah, Darnell Washington over the top of an Alabama defender. An absolute awesome catch. Just powerful hands to catch that ball. And I go, okay, Alabama's in trouble. That's 2 drives. Georgia's marched down the field, scored, and they haven't done anything. Boom, Jamison Williams, 67-yard touchdown pass. Okay, now we have a ball game. John Mechie, 13-yard touchdown. And then Riker with the 33-yard field goal. And now it's like, okay, Georgia, you better get something going. And McConkey, 32-yard touchdown pass. And then Bryce Young to end the half, 11-yard touchdown. Alabama leads 24-17 at half. First drive, Jamison Williams, 55-yard touchdown from Bryce Young. And then it was 31-17 for the rest of the third quarter. And we're watching the game, and I'm sitting there talking to my friend I'm like, Georgia's 1 drive away. And they were moving the ball okay. You know, you look at the final numbers, they were moving the ball pretty well. Stetson just couldn't get out of his own way. Ugly pick six. Because you look at the team stats, Georgia had 30 first downs. They were just 3 for 12 on third down. They had 449 yards. Oh, man. Yeah, Uncle Lou. I've known Uncle Lou since 2014. Yeah, he's probably just not having a fun time right now. But they just couldn't get out of their own way on third down. They couldn't run the ball. And it was putting a lot of pressure on Stetson Bennett. And we talked about before in our pregame show, for those that were here, we talked about Georgia hasn't faced any adversity this year. They've rolled everybody. That's how you get over 400-point differential in 12 games. You roll everybody. I don't mean, no pun intended. You just destroy everybody. And when the going gets tough in this game, how do they react? Well, you get to the fourth quarter, almost actually exited out. And Stetson just, he hit Jordan Battle in stride. 42 yards, touchdown. Now it's 38-17, and Stetson Bennett isn't going to, he's not putting up 21 unanswered against Alabama. Brock Bowers, God bless him, he had a heck of a game. That kid, he's gonna be a problem. And then Reichert ended the game with a 41-yard field goal after Georgia kicked with like 6 minutes left. They punted it on 4th and 15, which I thought was interesting because they still needed 2 touchdowns. And I didn't think they were going to be capable. I don't know. Shocked they didn't go to JT Daniels at any point during this game. Full credit goes to Bryce Young. I've watched every Alabama game this year. I've been on the Alabama channel, the SEC channel. I've watched games against Mercer and, oh God, who did they play? Southern Miss. I've watched these games. That first half was the best football I have seen Bryce Young play all year. That was the best half of football. Not the first long touchdown to Jameson Williams. The second touchdown to Jameson Williams may have been the best throw I've seen Bryce make all year. He's just different. And we talked about before the game, and Georgia's defense is still really good. I mean, but man, Bryce Young is just different. And we talked about before the game too. If he makes some plays, Alabama is going to win this thing because Georgia's defense will stop the run, and they did. I mean, I'm pulling up the team stats now. Alabama averaged 4.4 yards a carry, but at one point they were at like over 5. So I take it back. They didn't stop the run at all. And Bama was 6 for the first 9 on third down because it was constantly 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4. And it was just easy for Bill O'Brien, Bryce Young, to convert on third down. So full credit goes to Bryce Young, and full credit goes to the Alabama offensive line. We all questioned them. They stunk last week against Auburn. They stunk. I mean, I see a ton of Alabama fans in here. And, congratulations to the Crimson Tide. That offensive line was very good today. Very good. Bryce had years to throw the ball at some points. They were giving some running lanes to Robinson. Robinson, not a great day, and he was hurt. And I'm on Twitter all the time, and I didn't see him if he was going to be healthy or not. But Robinson came in 16 carries, 55 yards. Trey Sanders was productive in a couple plays. Bryce Young did what I've wanted Bryce Young to do all year, which is he tucked it and ran. He had one play in the first half where he had all day to throw. I think it was Dean got some pressure. He rolls out to his right, and he has a lane, but because a couple times he had already taken off, Georgia had to respect that, and he just pitches it to somebody on the side, 15-yard, 20-yard gain. Is Mark here? Mark want to be on the stream? I pulled out. Yeah, all right. Well, Mark was here, but I was like, if he wants to come on, he never let me know he went on. So he made a really nice play there. Leads to another touchdown. And now all the pressure went to Stetson Bennett. Georgia couldn't rely on its run game. It couldn't rely on its defense. They couldn't, and I'm not calling them front runners, but they couldn't front run in this game. They had to come back, and Stetson Bennett isn't built for that. George Pickens I think it was on the second drive, had a really nice catch. Just a gorgeous catch. And I was like, oh, welcome. I even have my notes. Welcome back, George Pickens. I know he played last week. We talked about that Thursday. He had one catch for 5 yards and was only targeted once. And today he finished with 2 catches, 41 yards. He had one catch for 4 yards out, and he had one 37-yard catch. So the Alabama secondary gave up its yards. I mean, Stetson Bennett went for 340. But when a team falls down 3 possessions, that's going to happen. I see your guys' questions. I'm just kind of monologuing here for a minute, but I'll get to them. Don't worry. Trust me. As people here Thursday and last Saturday know, I get to the questions. But yeah, just an excellent performance by Alabama. Defense, they shut down the Georgia run game because Georgia was constantly in 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. and they don't have the quarterback and not really a ton of receivers that can pick up those plays. Outside of Brock Bowers. Bowers was awesome today. He's a freak. I've already said that. He's just man alive. I wish someone else would have him at points. But Burton, 3 catches, 36 yards, and Georgia likes to spread the ball around. But a full credit goes to that Alabama defense today. We knew their run D was pretty good. And they held Georgia to 3.5 yards a rush, 30 carries, 109 yards. That's really, really good when you're dealing with a team like Georgia and running backs like Zamir White and James Cook. Again, 3 for 12 on third down. That's the key stat. Georgia had 30 first downs compared to Alabama's 25. But then you have to remember, Alabama did hit a couple deep shots. So they didn't really drive. They just hit deep shots, which we talked about Thursday. Can they hit a couple deep shots? Can they get a couple easy touchdowns? They got a defensive touchdown. Can they get a special teams touchdown? They didn't do that, but can they do what they need to do to keep the pressure on Stetson Bennett? A lot of Iowa fans there, and they did. So congrats to Alabama. Congrats to the Crimson Tide fans. I mean, what? My friend was talking, he's a big Alabama fan. But he was talking like, man, this is the one time Bama hasn't been favored in like a decade. They're going to act like Boston fans tonight. But Alabama fans, I see so many there, super proud of your team. You should be. You should be. So what more really is there to talk about? We'll get to your guys' questions and your thoughts and reactions to the game here on Mark Rogers TV. Let me look. A lot of you guys are watching on the main channel. Subscribe to our SEC channel. Subscribe to our Alabama channel. Subscribe to all our channels. There's a ton of great people that do awesome work here. We have a lot of people that do some awesome work here, but now let's get to these comments. Let's take a look here. Let's start getting the questions in. Someone asked earlier, is Georgia still a good team? Yeah. You don't get I don't care what your schedule looks like. You don't get 400. You don't have a 405 point differential if you're not an excellent football team. They're going to make the playoff. They're probably going to be the 3 seed. So, it's kind of funny because if Michigan wins tonight, Michigan fans are probably like, okay, we'll play Cincy. And Cincy fans are like, all right, we get Michigan. And now you guys get Alabama and Georgia. Congrats to that. So, yeah, no, Georgia's still a good team. They're going to the playoff. Somebody asked what 4 teams are going to the playoff. At this point, you have to assume Alabama, Georgia, Cincy. And if Michigan wins, Michigan, and Michigan doesn't win, then I don't know, maybe Baylor, maybe Ohio State, maybe probably Notre Dame, though. Looking. Jameson Williams, monster. He was special today. He was special. That's the word. He's been special all year long. He's still on punt. So, okay. But yeah, he was special today. He might have locked up the Biletnikoff, which is crazy. And then you look at you talk to Ohio State fans, and you're like, oh, he would have been the 4th best receiver on our team. And it's like, would he have been? Would he? And Ohio State's got great receivers, but man, he was special today. So yeah, hit monster game for the kid out of St. Louis. Him and Luther Burden actually played at Cardinal Ritter together. Could you imagine having Algebra 2 and then facing them? Good Lord. Let's see. Yeah, bring your comments, questions, reactions. How much credit does the Alabama offensive line deserve today? They were awesome. every I was watching early on, Jordan Davis was doing his thing. He was shoving Alabama defenders or offensive linemen, excuse me, been a weird day, into the backfield. I made this and I didn't even put it up. Shoving Alabama offensive linemen in the backfield. Brian Robinson wasn't going anywhere, but Bryce Young made some plays, and they had to respect that. Now, what I didn't understand is Dan Lanning never seemed to make an adjustment with the little just simple catch, pitch and catch, catch, look to your left, throw it wasn't quite a bubble screen, but it like kind of concept. He seemed to always be playing 10 yards off the ball, and that let Slade Bolden, Jameson Williams, Holden had a couple, Brooks had one, just run free for 9 yards. I know, and he's a freak, and he's awesome. I got you. Yeah, I know. So one of my friends tweeted out tonight, like, it's shocking to see that Kirby Smart didn't play the right quarterback. Now, who knows if JT Daniels does any better, but man, at some point you'd think that he had to go to him. Is Kirby the problem? No, because what you're asking is Kirby Smart basically, is he a bad coach? No, he's an excellent coach. The problem is Georgia can't get the quarterback position right. They can't, you have Stetson Bennett, Jake Fromm. They let go of Justin Fields, but people, that's a little overrated because little bit overrated because I'm trying to, how do I want to phrase this? Fromm had just taken to the national championship and looked pretty good that year. And the thought was he was going to get better, and he just never did. Yes, thank you. He has to adapt. Georgia plays football and has the same football mentality that Alabama did in 2011. Our quarterback hopefully doesn't make mistakes. We're going to run you over, and we're going to play great defense. And that does not work against elite teams anymore. It just does not work. And they need to get it right at quarter. Now, maybe some of these recruits they got coming in, Vander Grev, is that his name? We talked about him Thursday, but they need to get the QB position right. They had a rough night. They had a very, very rough night. No, the Georgia and Alabama will not be playing. Vander Griff, thank you. No, they will not be playing again until the championship. It'll if Michigan wins, it'll still probably be Alabama will be number one, and then it'll be Michigan, Georgia, which who cares which seed is which seed? Like, it doesn't matter. And then Notre Dame. Thank you. I have so many of these. I have like Superman covers and Spider-Man covers. I just thought that, it's the first Batman comic ever. So I was like, I love this poster. I'll throw it up in the background because instead of just for the first like 10 weeks of the year, we just had like a plain white wall. And then you can see like my bed here. And I have my Deadpool poster here. But I was like, yeah, that's kind of a goofy one to have. Like it has like a lot of panels, but all right, whatever. But no, but getting back to the point we were talking about, Kirby Smart's not the problem. He's a great recruiter. They need to adapt and find the right quarterback. They need to find the right quarterback. Do you remember when Alabama had John Parker Wilson, Greg McElroy, McCarron, Jake Coker? Like, that's who That's who Alabama's playing or Georgia's playing with right now, that level of quarterback. And that level of quarterback isn't going to win you big games. Now, here's the tricky thing about me making that statement. These two teams are going to play again in a month. And Georgia could win that game. Georgia very easily, not easily, but could win that game. So you don't want to make a blanket statement. You can't win with a quarterback like Stetson Bennett, but it becomes much more difficult when you don't have an elite quarterback to overcome some other issues for your team. No, he cannot. So again, these teams, to be honest, I think they will play in a month. I like Michigan. I think Michigan's a good team. I like Cincinnati. It's so cool that everything the committee put in their way, and they overcome them. They're going to make the playoff. Good for them. But they're going to probably get killed by Bama. But it's going to be cool to see that program be rewarded for 2 years now of excellence. There was no defensively. There was. They only scored 10 points in the second half. Now I know one drive's taken away from a pick six, but they didn't. They made adjustments defensively. Offensively, you can only hide your quarterback for so long, and they fell behind 2 touchdowns. And in my opinion, they panicked. They panicked. They didn't know what to do. They know Stetson Bennett is very, very limited, and he throws that egregious interception to Helms. Like that was probably when the game was about over because it was 31-17. Georgia drove the ball. Where were they? They're at the 19-yard line, 2nd and 9, and Helms picks it off. And yeah, that was probably close to as close as game. They weren't a fraud, right? I mean, I hate when that happens. The storyline is, Georgia's defense. No. Alabama's offense, Bill O'Brien, the Alabama offensive line, and Bryce Young and Jameson Williams and John Mechie before he got hurt had excellent games. Excellent games. So today the better team won. We'll see what happens in a month when you have a month's worth of adjustments and another game to play. Should they both win? Yep, that's why I'm okay. I mean, the other guy stinks too, so that's why I'm okay just having this one in the background. I should probably put on the ACC one because that game will probably be pretty fun. November, Alabama was sloppy. They were sloppy. That they had a bad game. I know most of you because I can see how many people are watching, and I know not all of you are here. November, that was the issue. The offense looked sloppy. The pass defense looked bad, and they were squeaking by some games that they shouldn't have been squeaking by in LSU, Auburn. Arkansas is a really good team, but I mean, maybe they were just playing possum. I don't know. No, Tennessee's offense is pretty good. I saw that. I watched that game in person. They had a bad night. Tennessee doesn't have a Jameson Williams. Tennessee doesn't have Bryce Young. Hendon Hooker had a really good year, but he's not Bryce Young. He's going to win the Heisman. But this game, the scores tonight looked more in line with last year, where every big game was 35 plus points each side. It didn't matter who was playing. Trying trying to think. This year, defenses have been better. But tonight, Bill O'Brien, Bryce Young, again, Bill O'Brien, Bryce Young, they all had great games. Well, Oklahoma State could have had an argument if they would have gotten 6 more inches. No, Notre Dame. I mean, I like Marcus Freeman, so best of luck to him. Yeah, as long as Michigan wins. And if Michigan loses, I couldn't tell you who's going to get that 4th spot. Could be Baylor, could be Notre Dame, could be Ohio State. No clue. If he did, that's bad coaching for a little bit, but I can't deny the results. Yeah, and we talked about that a little bit Thursday, and I'm just going back to Thursday preview. Stetson Bennett needed to make some throws. And I talked about in the Tennessee game early, when Tennessee was keeping it close, as there's a trick play for, the tight end fell down. Stetson Bennett made some throws on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. He didn't make those throws today. They were 3 for 12 on 3rd down. No, they shouldn't. He did. He's going to win the Heisman. That was a Heisman performance. Probably 3, Mr. Visor. Yeah, that was the thing everyone warned about. Like, don't count out Nick Saban in this roster and Bryce Young. They're stupidly talented. Sure they can. Well, Ohio State can't. Baylor surely can. Baylor now has 3 more top 15 wins than Notre Dame. Baylor absolutely could. Yeah, we talked about that play earlier. That was I don't want it to sound too college, but that play was disgusting. Yeah, and technically it was, I mean, if I'm going to be that guy, it was 34 points because they gave up the pick 6. But yeah, I saw this as like a mid-20s rock fight for large chunks of this game, and it wasn't that. Kirby's Visor, you're making some excellent points in the chat. Yeah, no, too many 3 and outs. 3 for 12 on 3rd down can't happen. And yeah, they couldn't get any. They had all day to throw, which I don't think any of us saw happening with how they played last week. What year is Bennett? He's got to be a senior, right? Because he was a walk-on. But J.C. Daniels was talked up as a first-round pick this year, and if he can't play this game where Stetson was clearly struggling, I didn't see it. And we were talking about Stetson Bennett, and the record is like Nick Saban was like 46-4 or something, went up by 14 plus points. And the losses were to Cam Newton, Ohio State in that playoff game, Deshaun Watson, and there was another one, and I forget when it was. But when they go up by 14 points, they don't lose. Oh, it's 13 Auburn, the kick 6 game. They don't lose, and Stetson Bennett is not going to be the right quarterback to take them over the top. Stop. No, Georgia is not the 6th best team in the country. Stop. No, Georgia's making the playoff, guys. No, he is. He's the absolute GOAT. And the argument I'll give for that is what gave Nick Saban issues earlier in his Alabama tenure, like a decade ago, 5, 6, up until Jalen Hurts got there. even the Jake Coker year they started when Lane Kiffin got there really was they had issues with the spread. Hugh Freeze ran a great system at Ole Miss. Johnny Manziel, Cam Newton, those guys gave them issues. Now Nick Saban has mastered the spread, and he's one of the best at it. Now, granted, he's got all the talent, but that's part of the job. And he's like, remember when Alabama was running like, and Calvin Ridley's a great wide receiver, but then it was like Ardarius Stewart, Jake Coker, and they had Derrick Henry. Like, he has now mastered the spread, and that's why he's the GOAT. We can talk about the schedule, and I'm going to say this a lot tonight, I have a feeling. We can talk about the schedule all we want, but their point differential was 405 points. It's not like, Bama had struggled in recent weeks, and they squeaked by LSU, squeaked by Auburn. Arkansas gave them a game. Florida gave them a game. They were just murdering everybody. Now, that could have been an issue because now when they fell behind, they panicked. They got away from the run, and the run wasn't working anyway. They had no idea what to do. He has the elite, and he has elite players at a bunch of positions. Pickens was a great pick recruit, and I know he didn't play this year. Brock Bowers is the next Kyle Pitts coming out of like he's just different. He needs the quarterback. Well, then you're taking out 2017 Alabama out of the playoff. And no, I disagree. Kirby's better than Les. Kirby just needs, in my opinion, needs to adapt better to this era of college football, where when you're playing elite teams, you can't go into the game hoping your defense can hold them under 24 points because it's just not going to happen. Elite teams have too many skill positions, too many weapons. Jameson Williams can burn you deep twice. There's 14 points. You can't do that. Not to go on a sidetrack on Florida, but yeah, no, Billy Napier is a heck of a hire and a heck of a season to Louisiana. Their one loss was on the road at Texas first week of the year. Blake Sims, Blake Sims was 2014 with Amari Cooper and like OJ Howard, I think, was on that team. No, Alabama's going to jump to 1 unless Michigan wins like 56-0. Alabama's going to jump to 1. Yeah, their offensive line was incredible. Yeah, Georgia killed Auburn with Bo Nix, and Bama squeaked by TJ Finley. I did think that was weird. They never seemed to try and rush Bryce Young. But what I think happened there was Bryce Young beat him I think it was once. Once he beat them on a blitz, and he got to the outside and he picked up like 15 yards or something. And he's just like, well, we can't let that happen. Nice run, Blake Corum. Absolutely. All season I've been on here waiting for Bama to play a complete football game, offensively, defensively. And tonight, it was that game. Georgia defense is still really good. They did not have, it was not their night. Let me catch up on the comments just not to get everything here. Which is crazy because for the last month, I would have told you that Dan Lanning would school Bill O'Brien. We all thought, and Dan Lanning's a heck of a coach. But yeah, I mean, Bill O'Brien, that was the best game Bill O'Brien's called all year. Yeah, he was. He was getting a lot of time early, and the times Bama did pressure him, he was able to roll out and get. I know he only had 3 carries all game, but I think it was once or twice he got out of the pocket and just took 10 yards, 15 yards. And once that starts to happen, you're like, well, we can't just try and speed him up, and we can't leave guys on islands against Mechie and Williams. And then Mechie went out at half, and Bama only scored 10 points in the second half offensively. That's the scare. Well, Williams can leave. But yeah, it's Alabama. They'll never not be at this point. Yeah, and if you'd been here, I said that weird. We have talked about that. Bama, they play like Alabama did when they had A.J. McCarron or Greg McElroy or Jake Coker. They don't make mistakes. Let our run game get you to 3rd and 2 and make a play. That you can't do that. You can't go in this era of college football. You can't rely on your defense to hold under 24 points. Just an outstanding performance today from Bryce Young and the Alabama offense. They had a plan. They were going to attack the outside, and they were going to do it quickly. They hit a couple deep shots, but a lot of times it was just, hey, we're going to throw it out to the sideline and let our guys go get 8 yards. And they did. And it's 7-0 Michigan. I saw Corum's run. Yeah, they score like one more touchdown. This game's over because Iowa's not scoring 17 points on this defense. But I think your key stat to today's game, more than Bryce Young, more than Bryce Young, Jamison Williams, Georgia 3 for 12 on 3rd down. And if you want to add 4th downs, so on 3rd and 4th down today, Georgia was 5 for 16, while Alabama was 7 for 14. To win a game like that, this can't happen. So credit to Alabama's defense. They had 2 ugly turnovers. They outpossessed Alabama 34 minutes to 25 minutes. I would like to put a caveat on that, though, or caveat, however you pronounce it. Bama did have the pick 6, so they lose a drive, and they did hit a couple deep shots on not very long drives. I'm not quite sure, but I wish I could know. Because the O-line, that was a 180-degree turn. They were very good today. Now, the run game wasn't explosive. It wasn't, they weren't breaking off huge gains. They still ran for, 4.5 yards a carry. But you just take the running backs, 22 carries for 76 yards is nothing special, but it's over 3 yards a carry, and it's putting Bryce Young and the offense in advantage situations where it doesn't have you can do a lot of things on 3rd and 3 that you can't do on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, which is what Georgia's been doing all year. Well, sir, I think I got some bad news for you. I mean, hopefully Cincy and Michigan or whoever give these guys games, but we'll see. You know, I've watched a lot of Michigan this year. Not a lot of Michigan. I watched a few Michigan games and I've watched a few Cincy games. But it's one of those things where I'm gonna have to look. You're gonna have to look at stats. You're gonna have to look at a lot of different things before I can declare like, oh well. But I'm fairly certain right now these two teams are gonna play again. Okay, yes, but also Jake Fromm had just taken him to the national championship game, and I understand there's got to be loyalty there. And then the next year, you know, they should have beaten Bama in that SEC title game the next year in 2018, but Jalen Hurts just made some plays. This year, Stetson Bennett didn't play great, but he never played bad enough to lose his job. But I am surprised after the pick 6, which was his second ugly pick of the game, he didn't give JT Daniels out there. Because at that point, now you're down 3 possessions. You need a guy that can throw the football a little bit better than Stetson Bennett can. Excuse me. No, it's not good. But what quarterback left is going to abuse that? There's no quarterback in the college football playoff that's projected to make it. So Cade McNamara, Desmond Ridder, and Stetson Bennett that can abuse that. There's none. KJ Jefferson could, but KJ Jefferson's better than the 3 of those guys, except maybe Ridder. Ritter's pretty good, but he doesn't have like the weapons outside. This year, I understand. There's going to be a long discussion at the Georgia facility before the playoff game. The interesting thing will be to see, does Kirby Smart have the guts to potentially make JT Daniels' first start a playoff game against Michigan? Were they? Was that because that's the team that got smacked by LSU in Death Valley, which it happens. So I'm not gonna harp on that too much. I just don't remember individual talent. Like, who did they miss? Who are they missing from 17 to 18? They didn't have the running backs. Oh, you're saying it the other way around. I'm sorry, because in my head, Hurts came back. Yeah, no, the Georgia team that lost in the title game was much better than the team that lost in the SEC title game and then lost to Texas in a game they didn't care about. Yeah, unfortunately, I think they're getting Bama. For them, unfortunately, I think they're going to get Alabama. What credit is Luke Fickell? He was replaced because he got injured. He's always injured. He got injured, and then who was the backup that year? They had a backup come in and play really well, and then he got hurt, and Slovis took over. Well, after today, that seems to be a tendency because, yeah, he abandoned the run. I appreciate that. It remains to be. I keep bringing up Eric, but he's making some really good points here. It remains to be seen. Again, we're having these conversations tonight, but the difficult thing between Georgia's loss this year, Georgia's loss in 2018 in the SEC title game is this. They could very easily play again in a month, and we could be having the exact same conversation or the exact opposite conversation. So I don't want to put any blanket statements on this year's team of Georgia because they're not good enough to win it. Kirby Smart can't do this. Kirby Smart can't do that. Because in a month this narrative could change. Plus, Kirby Smart not being elite because he can't beat Nick Saban is a hard thing for me to say because nobody can beat Nick Saban. Man's won more national titles than home games lost. For those that aren't Alabama fans, not soon enough, Nick Saban. And for those that are Alabama fans, keep him around forever. It's crazy in college football how last week, and I see someone just commented it, that one play where Bigsby runs out of bounds, Alabama probably doesn't make the playoff. Trick play, touchdown Michigan. Who said that? It wasn't me. I've been defending UGA. Come on now. Completely fair. Completely fair. I understand where you're coming from. I myself can't make any blanket statements when this could change. Now, in a month, when we're doing this show again, and it's 10 o'clock, and I'm sitting here, we could change this dialogue, and this dialogue couldn't be changed. The dialogue could change in a month, or it couldn't. Very fence riding thing to say, but when these two teams might play again soon, I don't know what to judge. Could Georgia flip the score? They probably won't score 41, but could they win? If they win in a month, what are we going to talk about? Hey, they finally did it. But Nick Saban's never lost to an assistant that's making under what? What is Jimbo making now? 9 million, 10 million? Yeah, one of the best games of all time. 2006 with Jared Zabransky, what's his name? Ian Anderson, and Brian Harsin was the OC on that staff. Good question. No, Notre Dame's not. Notre Dame isn't jumping. Georgia's not falling back 4 spots because they lost to the number 3 team. They're not. And Notre Dame didn't play today didn't help their cause. This is one of those years that Notre Dame not being in a conference is really going to bite them in the butt. Really going to bite them in the butt. Because if they played today, you could argue for them over Georgia. Probably you couldn't argue for them over Cincinnati because Cincinnati beat them and the games have to matter. But yeah, rough year for Notre Dame. But the thing with Notre Dame too is this was supposed to be like a retool year. 2, 3, it doesn't matter. What the number one, the difference between 1 and 2 matters, and 3 and 4, but 2, 3 doesn't matter. Nice throw, Spencer Petras. Isn't that the $1 million question? Just happens sometimes. I couldn't tell you. Bright, like I said, I've watched every Alabama game this year, and that was the best game Bryce Young's ever played. Can he do it again in a month? I don't know. You would like to think so because he's such a good quarterback. And I think part of that too is the grind of the SEC wore on him, and it's not hard to get up for an SEC championship. But the correct answer is no clue. Coaching. And Nick Saban is the best coach of all time. So it just he's the best scheme of all time. Well, I think it'd be the reverse. I think the committee would do everything to get Notre Dame in over Cincinnati. Oh, did I do something wrong? Is he not on right now? You're just spamming comments. I'm going to put you in timeout. But again, lots of credit has to go to a lot of people are calling this as a setup for the SEC. Well, maybe some other teams should have tried winning games. I don't know. Let's see. Bama loses to not ranked team. They were in the top 15 at one point. Falls one spot. OSU falls to 7. It falls 5 spots. Charles, I'll give you the reason why, and you're not going to like this reason. Bama lost a weird game on the road by a field goal. Now, Texas A&M did not finish the year strong, and I'll grant that, but they lost a game on the road by a field goal. Ohio State got punked by Michigan, and they got punked by Oregon. So an Oregon team that got punked by Utah twice. So that's why Ohio State fell. Yeah, Ohio State got punked twice. And then the team that punked them in the beginning of the season got punked twice by Utah, who's a very good team. And Ohio State, Utah in the same completely. They got Ohio State, Utah is going to be a fun one if everybody plays because they blitzed. Yeah, I might. I'm not going to completely disagree with you there. I don't right now because I don't think if they play Georgia, for instance, can Cade McNamara make plays? Because they're not going to be able to punk. Michigan's not going to be able to punk Ohio State and just physically stomp them like they did, like they stomped Ohio State, like they do. They've done so often this year because Georgia's run D is still elite. Can Cade McNamara make plays? I don't know. No, it was 22 because Oregon beat you by a touchdown and Michigan beat you by 15. And you lost 2 games. So, no, Ohio State doesn't deserve to be in the playoff over Georgia or whoever. I don't hate Ohio State. I have a friend who's a huge Ohio State fan. So, he can be annoying, but I don't hate Ohio State for any real reasons than other they're an excellent team year in, year out. But maybe consider beating Michigan or stomping Penn State, stomping Nebraska, whatever. Let's see, where was I in the comments? Worst coach in the SEC East has a national championship. Clark Lee has Clark Lee's not the worst coach. I'm kidding. Welcome to Kirk Ferentz football, my friend. I mean, I would call giving up like 300 yards rushing punked, and your defensive line getting pushed 6 yards off the ball every play punked, but maybe not in the score. But Michigan wasn't going to lose that game because they were just doing whatever they wanted to offensively. They could. Saban's going to have a month to prepare. So will Luke Fickell. So will Jim Harbaugh. Whoever they end up playing. But we'll see. It's kind of, Yeah, so if Michigan scores here, this game's over, right? And I could probably put on the ACC game because that game will be fun. I don't know the score, though. Let me look it up real quick because I'm not watching. Wake Forest football. Oh, it's 14-14. Wow, that game's super fun. Yeah, I think everyone here is. Everyone where I was watching the game with we were shocked that Ohio State, not Ohio State, we just did a dialogue on them and how they don't deserve the playoff because they got abused in a run game twice. I've never seen an offensive position group that looks so terrible. They were terrible last week. And they weren't great against Arkansas. And again, someone's going to bring it up, the blitzing and all that stuff. They looked so terrible. And against LSU, they were miserable too. And this week, they were very good. They were very, very good. And full credit to them. I mean, we know Neal at left tackle is going to be a top of the first round pick. But the right side got caved in. And they were getting caved in early. I watched one play where Jordan Davis took the right guard and the center and pushed them 2 yards into the backfield. And they got stuffed for no gain. But yeah, no, they had an awesome day. They had an awesome day. They sure did. Don't think I have forgotten about that. Well, there's an Iowa goofy interception. I hate this team sometimes. Iowa drives me up a wall. Yeah, I don't think I haven't forgotten about that one because they did. Georgia, Auburn killed them. And then you get to Atlanta and Georgia killed them. So I don't know. Yeah, I see seeing like, oh, LOL, Iowa, it's what they do. They force turnovers. They do. And then they throw out a 1926 offense that can't move the ball. And they're like, well, why did we lose to Michigan by 15 points, by 20 points? Because you can't move the ball. If Spencer Petras completes that, okay. I'm just going to have to shut my mouth. Gosh, he's so bad. That's why Iowa drives me up a wall. Because I'm like, if they just had an offense built for 2021, or they had an offense built for 2005, yeah, I don't think. Well, in the second half, he just called timeouts at the end of the game. There's nothing he could. Like, that was what he was going to do. Because I don't think any of us saw a blowout coming. Or not really. It wasn't like a blowout, but a comfortable win. I mean, 21 points at one point. I don't think any of us really saw a comfortable win for Georgia or for Alabama today. But yeah, Kirby in the first half, they got that touchdown. I know, and I'm always on team score. I don't care about the clock, score. But you couldn't stop them all game. They have Jamison Williams, and you gave them a lot of time at the end of the half, and they went down and marched it down and scored, and that was weird. Oh, I know. I've ranted about this in other shows. Believe me, ridiculous. Yeah, probably. As I was talking, I thought to myself, nah, that was probably. I mean, it was 2 touchdowns with 2, but it was 21. It was 38-17. They were getting Fetty whopped. Yeah, it was a blowout. Yeah, that game was ugly. I don't know if Cristobal is going to Miami, and that's why. Okay, we have a child in chat apparently in conspiracy theory land. I don't know if he was thinking about Miami, but for a guy that can recruit, why do you not have a better quarterback than Anthony Brown? What? What? I don't understand what the game plan was that night. No, because it'll be a third blowout. For the most part, what's funny enough is Purdue has some athletes. Out of all the schools, Purdue always has athletes. I think Kirby coached. I don't. I think some of his game management stuff today was a little weird. I don't think they made any great adjustments in the first half. So I don't think he had a great game. Pac-12 After Dark is fun, though. Come on. Come on. Pac-12 After Dark's fun. And to the point of Kirby not bad. Yeah. I had that in my notes. I'm like, it's 3rd and 7. Why are there 3 down linemen? Which is a shame because Pitt and Wake Forest are going to play a super fun game. It's a 21-14 Wake in the first quarter. Come on, guys. Watch that game. That game was sloppy. Sloppy. Ugly game, that Big 12 title game today. Wake Forest and Pitt. Kenny Pickett or Sam Hartman, baby. Watch it. It's going to be fun. And it is fun. It's 21-14. Not completely wrong. No, you're very much closer to right. Is the Heisman a wrap? Yes. The Heisman's a wrap. Will Anderson had a pretty good game today. He had a sack at the end, giving him 22 sacks in 26 games. My Lord, is he a freak? And he'll be back next year. No, yeah, the Heisman was over after the first half. Once Bryce led them down the field, that Heisman was over. Just touching on the rest of college football. I thought he'd be a weird fit at Virginia Tech. I I think the coach they got, the Penn State defensive coordinator, Pry is his name. I think he's a good coach. I think he's done a great job at Penn State. He's the only reason they were competitive at points this year. I thought it was a weird hire. And I'm the guy that unironically threw out Barry Odom's name for that. And Barry Odom was terrible at Missouri for a lot of it. Agreed. And the popular opinion since he's going to get killed in a month, and they very well might be. But it is fun to watch programs get their due. Utah almost got it 2 years ago when they lost to Oregon in the Pac-12 title game. But it's cool to see programs that are run the right way, win a lot of games. Utah wins a lot of games in the Pac-12. And with good coaches, Whittingham's a good coach, Fickle's a good coach, and they're going to get their day in the sun. And that's always cool to see. They are not. Well, today was a reason why I don't understand why the Big 12 has a championship game. Playing basically what the Big 12 did today was pretty much cost a team a playoffs chance. Unless Michigan loses and Baylor sneaks in, but I don't think that's happening. They cost themselves a playoff chance. Sounded like Rick there. Morty, they cost themselves a playoff chance. Not a clue. When all the Mario Cristobal stuff came out, I was like, did I miss when I was doing my show Thursday? Did I miss Manny Diaz getting fired? I assume someone would comment that, or I'd see a tweet or an alert, or someone would tell me, and I'm like, did I just miss something? No, they skip a step, but that program's in chaos right now. Yeah, he's worked one. I mean, what did they go 2-7 last year with Aranda? Yeah, he didn't have it on easy street. He didn't. I mean, Mechie will be an NFL pick. I don't know if he's a first round pick. Jameson Williams is a first round pick, but Tua had 3 or 4 first round picks and a first round pick at running back and a great offensive line. Mac had an all time great offensive line and some great weapons, and Mac had a great year too. Bryce hasn't had it on easy street, and he's a sophomore. He didn't get to, and he sat last year behind Mac, and he looks like he learned a lot. So, I'm super impressed with him all year because a lot of the time, and he didn't get Sark as a play caller or, gosh, who did Jalen have? He's now in Buffalo. What is his name? Having a hard time thinking of it. Dayball. He didn't get those guys. He's getting Bill O'Brien, and a lot of the times it looked like Bill O'Brien's offense was, Bryce, go make a play. And he did. Yeah, no worries. No, they don't. Because if Michigan loses, maybe, but I don't think Iowa's scoring 14 unanswered against Michigan. And so, no. Because you're not putting him in over Cincy because Cincy beat him. And no. It would have been funny, though, with Marcus Freeman, which is, I think, a good hire. I know people at Florida. I know a guy that used to work at Florida. Yeah, Dan Mullen, not well liked by a lot of people. Yeah, but they won every game and they beat the 6th-ranked team in the country. Not due isn't like they just give them a playoff spot. Like, hey, look how great this program has been after they were a disaster for a while. Weird comment. You know what? I'll be honest. I don't know a ton about. I thought it was a weird hire. But he's had some good defenses at Penn State, so. I guess that game was atrocious, ugly football, but it did have a very fun ending. Also true. And they've been made up for it ever since. Let's see. That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. I am behind on comments. Josh Gaddis better have a lot of plans because he's not going to be able to do what they did at Ohio State. He's not going to be able to do what they did to Ohio State to Georgia. Completely agreed. They made the right move. Wisconsin lost to Minnesota lost to Iowa. Iowa was just, they're 10-2. Like, I don't think Iowa's that great of a team, but they're 10-2. They lost at Wisconsin and they lost to Purdue. And Wisconsin lost 3 conference games. Lost to Michigan, lost to Penn State, and lost to Minnesota. Who deserves to go in over them? Tell me that. Who deserves to go in over them? You don't have to think they belong, but who deserves to go in over them? Notre Dame, the team that Cincy beat, whose best win is Wisconsin. Baylor, with a backup quarterback who needed a goal line stand to beat Okie State despite 5 turnovers. Ohio State, who has 2 losses and got. I don't think so. Against Michigan? Yeah, they'll be able to move the ball. Yeah, I'd assume Alabama was number 1. Because they're not going to have Michigan or Alabama and Georgia play again. So unless Michigan wins this game, and you just have no choice, and you have to, they win 56-3 or something, and you have no choice, to put them above, put Michigan at number 1. Excuse me. They do that every year though, because they don't have the offense to win. To be fair, let's also say this, and I talked about this Thursday. Here's a dirty secret in college football. Most playoff games suck. How many great playoff games we had? We had Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson in 2019, and who else? Talking about the semifinals, not just the title games, because the title games you've been pretty lucky with. Most of the playoff semifinals stink. Again, talking about semifinals, not. I said Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, Ohio State in 2014, and Oklahoma, Georgia. Those are the only good ones we have. They all stink. They're all blowouts. Okay, tell me who thinks it's going to be Alabama. Georgia's probably the only team that can. They're talented enough. Something we agree with. I completely agree. We do not need an expansion. And I've talked about this. I don't want expansion because again, the college football, the regular season has to matter. It's the only sport in America where the regular season matters, where if you lose a game, your season could be over. And to me, it would stink if this year's Michigan Ohio State game, if we had 8 teams in the playoffs, 12 teams in the playoffs, whatever, the game doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Both teams are in the playoffs. SEC championship game. Now, today, Georgia is going to make the playoffs. So this year, it doesn't matter. I agree. I will say that. But most years, it matters. Probably, if you're talking about Georgia, probably not. No, it actually probably be the highest. Maybe Alabama, Ohio State. No, Alabama fans and Georgia fans are all over the country. No, the Iowa defense is really good, and they're really good at forcing turnovers. It's their 118th ranked offense that puts me to sleep. They do get hot, but how often do we see these teams that are getting hot at the end of the year win? Like this year, who's the team everybody's talking about is getting hot? It was the Eagles. Now it's Washington. No, I don't think we need expansion. Team, this has to matter. Utah would make the playoff. It won't, but what? So why does it matter if Cincy makes it this year? Despite being a really good team that's lost one game in 2 years, took Georgia to the brink last year and beat Notre Dame. Yeah, I could spend 15 minutes talking about how good Brock Bowers is. Shoot, 1958. This is not even explosive for 1958. 1958 had the invention of the forward pass. Yeah, and they'll get murdered by Alabama, even though they've been really good. But Rising isn't a quarterback that's going to beat Georgia, that's going to beat Alabama. I really like Utah though. I've always respected Utah, but they lost 3 games. You want to make the playoff? I know they got hot, but also maybe don't lose to BYU and San Diego State. Two not very bad, not bad teams at all. Those are 2 pretty good teams. Maybe don't lose to them. I think so. I remember. Yeah, and the BCS 2004 was a crazy year for the BCS, and 2008 was just because of the Big 12 South thing where you had Texas Tech. Well, Texas Tech got murdered in Norman, so that doesn't count. But Texas OU, that argument. The BCS got it right a lot, and the playoff committee. Just sometimes I'm like, what? I know what kind of thing you're setting up, and Ryan. Okay, you guys are talking about Ryan Day versus and Dabo versus Kirby. Thanks for the super chat. I disagree. It needs to be 6 or 8 teams. It benefits your conference. No, I don't like expansion because games have to matter. And I don't know if any of you here have been here since the beginning when we did like Mercer and we did Miami. I didn't do the Miami game, or we did, the Florida game. We've talked about this. I don't like expansion because the games have to matter. You can go back to 2018 and Purdue beats Ohio State. They kill Ohio State. All-time fun game at Purdue. If the playoff was expanded, the game didn't matter. Now, 6 teams, I'm reading the full comment. I just saw 8. 6 teams I could live with. And again, I've said this too. If it expands, I'm not going to be kicking and screaming and crying and be like, it's stupid. It's just what I prefer. But 6 teams I'd actually be pretty okay with. If the top 2 teams get like a bye or something, which is what you would have to do with 6 teams, completely cool with that. Big Ten's always been that conference. It's cold. You can't be throwing the ball a lot. They recruit. Okay, we got an Iowa. It's from Joe again. Recruit subpar talent. Yeah, they don't recruit that well. I mean, and I'll give Kirk Ferentz a lot of credit. They do win a lot of games with the talent they have, but they're never going to take that next step because they don't try for anything more. They're pretty comfortable at being an 8-4 team every year. Some years jumping up like this year and they're 10-2, or 2015 when they went 12-0, and some years they're okay with going 6-6. But usually they're going to be between 7-5, 8-4, 9-3. Yep, they still get in. Shoot, you give them. Who's the worst quarterback in college football you can think of that probably gets Iowa to undefeated? Which means be having an okay offense against Purdue. It means scoring probably 21 points against Purdue, because with a decent offense, Purdue doesn't put up 24. And who else did they lose to? They lost to Wisconsin. Again, one of those games where it was 14-7 and Iowa couldn't move the ball. Yeah, and I have a friend who's like, well, they should expand because the basketball tournament's crazy. And I'm like, basketball, and I assume most of us or all of us in here know this. Basketball and football are 2 different sports. Upsets are much easier because it's not as physical as football is. Baylor had a really good season. I'm shocked no one gave Aranda a look. And they're going to go probably to the Sugar Bowl. And they'll play like Ole Miss. But if Baylor wanted to be taken seriously, here's Baylor's non-con. Texas State, Texas Southern. They beat BYU in the non-con. It's really good. They lost to Okie State. You can't lose that game to TCU. TCU stinks. And that's going to bite them in the butt. Yeah, that too. I mentioned they lost to San Diego State and BYU, 2 pretty good teams. Yeah, I forgot who they lost. I thought it was USC. Yeah, no, don't lose to Oregon State, who I really like their coach. I really like Jonathan Smith. I think he's done an excellent job in Corvallis. That sounds about right. He locked it up today, my friend. He locked that up today. It's what Iowa does. They slow games down. Michigan's up 14-3, and I wouldn't if I'm a Michigan fan, which I don't know. I would assume most of you are probably watching the game, not listening to me talk about Alabama, Georgia. You got 14 points. That's probably about enough. You're probably good. Maybe tack on another touchdown. You're fine. Love Jonathan Smith. I that program at Oregon State, if they had made the wrong hire after did Riley come back? I think Mike Riley went back. If they had made the wrong hire after Mike Riley left, they very easily could have fallen into like that Kansas Vanderbilt level. And they made a really good hire, and they're never going to make the playoff. They're probably never going to go compete for a Pac-12 championship, although they almost did this year. They made a really it was Gary. I know it was Gary Anderson, but I think Mike Riley came back. They fired Gary Anderson because he stunk. Mike Riley, college. They didn't bring back Mike Riley. It was Gary Anderson because I thought Mike Riley went back in like 2018. Well, that's embarrassing. I don't know my Oregon State. I don't know my Beaver football. Gary Anderson, and then they hired Jonathan Smith. Okay, so I take it back. But Jonathan Smith was a heck of a hire. That tends to happen when you've beaten your rival. Last week against Ohio State was maybe the biggest Michigan win in 20 years, 25 years since the national championship year. He was an advisor. Thank you. Where was I? We'll talk about that when we get there, if we get there. It's hard to beat a team twice, but if there's anybody who can do it, it's Nick Saban. I went for longer about Jonathan Smith than I think I ever have to people that aren't myself when I'm reading. I love John. When my team was making a hire, I was really hoping they'd look at Jonathan Smith. Okay. Kirby dumb. He's won 10 games in an Ole Miss team that lost like every one of their skill position players. I'm sure anytime mentions that Michigan national championship, you bring that up. I don't doubt that. Contracts don't matter. Well, App State unfortunately lost to Louisiana today, so I don't think they're going to be making the playoff. Bama. They're going to play Bama. Michigan's going to stay 2 or 3. Like, Iowa's going to get the ball here around the 50 again, and they're not going to score. God, it's on. What national analyst is it that just does not think but poop on Iowa? Is it Colin Cowherd? Ugh, I don't want to be like Colin Cowherd. Ugh. But Iowa bores me. I'm sorry. No, not really. Stetson Bennett, again, the key stat was they were 3 for 12 on third down. You're not going to win like that. And Stetson Bennett threw in a horrible pick six, threw another horrible pick when the game was still in reach. Just was not. No, I'm not John Rothstein, unfortunately. Yeah, he'll absolutely. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Home of the college QB that doesn't go to USC. No. Texas A&M beat Bama and still went 8-4. Sir, they're just Louisiana now. Come on, show some respect to the Raging Cajuns, the conference champion Raging Cajuns. As long as he's recruiting top 5 classes and making the playoff. What was it? Is this the second time they've made it? God, this is only the second time. I think they'll be okay. Matt Corral's don't grow on trees. Well, here's the thing with Matt Corral. Yeah, he's really talented. He got benched in 2019 for Plumlee. He was a nut. That's mean to say, and that's probably, I don't know all the behind the scenes. He had a reputation as a head case before Lane got there. And he threw a lot of picks, and he did last year too. And Lane reeled him in, and he had an excellent year. It doesn't matter. We say that, but then we also thought it would be hard without Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle and Najee Harris, and here they are. They played a few years ago, and I'm pretty sure Michigan won like 51-14. Okay, I got your Kirby Smart comment. I get it. Yes, Georgia will still get in. I don't think anybody being serious has said that Georgia doesn't get into the playoff. Good God, Iowa. I sure am. Georgia's going to get in, but now you have so you now have a month, and the good thing if you're Georgia is you have a month, and now George Pickens is healthy. They've got Brock Bowers is obviously a beast. We've talked about him, and they have some choices here now. I got you can look. I got a Deadpool poster right here. I got a lot of posters, brother. Got a lot of Marvel, a lot of DC posters. Look, I like Dion and Jackson State winning the SWAC is really cool. But if Oklahoma's hiring, if you take the name out of it, if Oklahoma's hiring a coach with 1 year of experience at a SWAC school, there's some issues. Love Marvel. The Batman one I like a lot though. It's the only reason I put that one. Do you guys want me to put up my Spider-Man one or my Marvel? I have like a '60s Avengers one, and I have one. It's like just all Marvel characters except the X-Men. I don't know why. If everybody plays, yeah, Utah Ohio State could be a lot of fun. Providing Ohio State just doesn't get punched in the mouth in the run game again. But yeah, Utah's played some really good football, and they're going to be highly ranked going into next year because I'm pretty sure they're pretty young. Penalties and Michigan messing up. I mean, that's their offense all year. I don't want to talk too much about superheroes, but yeah, I am a geek, so I got Superman. I got a lot of Batman stuff. I mean, if I'm going to say Ohio State got punked by Michigan by this logic, yeah, he got Kirby. The Georgia staff had a rough day. All right, guys, I'm only going to go for like 15 more minutes, 20 more minutes. I'll text Mark, see if I'll do a show tomorrow when the bowl games are announced, and we'll talk more then. But yeah, no, they got punked today, and they had a rough day. Now they made some adjustments at halftime, and they only gave up the 10 points. But it's hard to judge too much because Alabama lost one drive because they got a pick six. So Georgia offense just came back on the field, and Georgia went down 14 and then punted. And I know Stetson Bennett, had a rough day, but you got to go for that. You can't punt in that situation. 3rd and 17. I mean, nice catch. But they'll punt. It's 3rd and 4. They're going to punt. My favorite team, I do cover Alabama for Mark on Mark here on Mark Rogers TV. I don't love Alabama. I've covered every Alabama game, and I think having an outside voice covering the team provides some good perspective. So it's not just bias, homerism. that you may see in some other on other channel, not in this network of channels, but on other like YouTube channels. That, but I am a unfortunately I'm a Mizzou Tiger fan. Does Bill O'Brien get a job? No, not this year. They never will. Welcome to Kirk Ferentz football. NCAA football. Arkansas was not terrible. At some point, you think people would learn. No. I have a great respect for the Alabama program, and I have a lot of fun covering them this year. Covering them like I'm a beat writer, doing this channel, doing post-game shows. Okay, you've put that in for like 200 times, so you're going to go on timeout. Joel Klatt's trying to make this game as exciting as he can. Meanwhile, let's take a good old look at the Wake Forest score. Oh, excuse me. Oh, it's 21-21, 7 minutes left in the second. But I could come on here and say, oh, they played great against Auburn. They didn't. I mean, they just need to adjust. I mean, they win. They're in a bowl game every year. They're consistently. Every time I think of Iowa, I think of a team ranked between like 19th and 23rd. That's 7-3 or 8-2 or something. There's teams I root for. I have my main team I root for, but I do root for teams that have fallen on bad, except Kansas. I do root for teams, and I did root for Kansas to beat Texas because that's hilarious. There are teams I root for because it's nice to see programs who stink. And no offense, Oregon State has stunk a lot, except when you have the Rogers brothers. Or like Sean Mannion. And so it's nice to see like them. Rutgers took a big step this year. Oregon State had a fun year. Last year was a fun year for Oregon State too. Colorado in like what year was that? It was like 2018, 2019. I think it was 2018 where they made the Pac-12 championship game. That was cool. I just like rooting for programs that like were kind of in the dumps and then made a good hire and just worked their butts off and got better. I don't think anybody thought UGA was the best team ever. Their defense statistically is one of the best defenses we've seen since that 2011 Bama team. This wasn't a Bama team that has physically imposed their will quite like a lot of Alabama teams, whether it be through skill or just physical dominance. But it was always still a really good team, and I warned people that while I did pick Georgia to win, those counting Alabama out, with the talent they have, you can't see my hand. With the talent they have and Nick Saban, you can never count them out. Yeah, I have a friend who's a huge Northern Illinois fan. His dad used to be a beat writer for them, and he was so thrilled when they won today. And after a bad year last year, they get Rocky Lombardi in the transfer portal, have an excellent season. So good for them. There's some pretty fun games today. It's unfortunate that I'm really far away. I just stopped sitting back in my futon. A lot of these games sound like Brian Kelly. These games here with my family are just kind of at the same time. So you can't really like no TV today was on the Houston Cincy game. I was watching part of it on my phone. No TV at the restaurant. Meet. Good for them. Good for UTSA last night. Western Kentucky tried. And that quarterback, Zappy, man, he almost did it. Now, that would have been an interesting question and an argument I could have listened to. The problem is Oklahoma State was really good this year, but they didn't really just murder teams. Like, let's look at their schedule real quick. Why aren't they on my front page? Do I really have to scroll over? No, I don't want the Gamecast for that one. There it is. Gamecast. So let me walk back my they didn't murder teams. Okay, so teams can get better over the year, but they beat Missouri State by 7, FCS Missouri State, Tulsa by 5, a pretty average Boise State team by 1, a bad Texas team by 8. They lost to Iowa State, destroyed KU. I don't care. Beat West Virginia pretty good. Destroyed TCU. Okay. And towards the end of the year, they got it together, it looks like. But early on, I know teams can get better, but games have to matter. So and Georgia, again, even with today's loss, see, they lost by 17 today. So they have a point differential of 388. Ohio State, Oregon would pretty excite me a lot. That'd be a fun one. Dave Aranda's defensive mind against Ole Miss, if Matt Corral plays, could be a lot of fun. But with how average at times the SEC was this year, it's going to be hard for teams to get good matchups. Like, you're going to see some 6-6 teams take on like a Wisconsin. TCU doesn't stink. Are we talking about the TCU Horned Frogs? Who, what they go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's 5-7 this year? You can't make a bowl game. You stink. You lose 63-17 to Okie State, 48-14. Barely beat Kansas. Lose to Kansas State by 20. Yeah, you stink. You lose to SMU. Barely beat a Cal team. Yeah, no, they stink. Yeah. Best defense we'd seen statistically in a decade. I'd say the best defense of all time. That's crazy. Oh. Well, anybody who's saying they're the best defense of all time is goofy because they weren't. They're really, really good, though. Let me try. Ole Miss is really good offensively. No, Ole Miss is great offensively, considering they are missing a lot of skill position players this year. Yeah, Mike Leach has his moments. No, probably not. Unless Michigan loses. All good. People do forget about Ole Miss. Okay, that doesn't surprise me. A lot of Georgia fans are saying that. Statistically, they were awesome. And as far as rush defense goes, they were one of the best of all time. But look what happened today. Yeah, that was 20 minutes ago. I know. They're fun to watch. I compare Iowa. Do you ever watch like the Chicago Bears? And they just don't do anything offensively, and their defense is getting stopped after stop after stop after stop. But then you look up, and it's like 13-6, and you're just like, oh my God, this game is boring. That's Iowa. Because the Iowa D is better than the Ohio State defense. He's Iowa, whether it's Josie Jewell or somebody, Iowa always has some freak athlete or freak linebacker. No, they'll go to like the Fiesta Bowl or whatever. I don't remember what the playoff games are this year. Depends. Early in his tenure, like Cam, he just, they had Cam Newton, who was in the midst of one of the best college football season, if not the best college. I know Burrow was right there with him. 2013, you had the kick six, but he hadn't adjusted yet. The two Ole Miss games weren't, maybe 2015. 14 Ole Miss game wasn't luck. A&M wasn't really luck, but I wouldn't call him he got out coached. It's just sometimes you lose games. Yet they're still up they're still up 2 possessions. Oh, brother, I'm sorry. I like Justin Fields, and I know you do too because you're an Ohio State fan. I like Justin Fields. They have Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney. I don't want to talk about the NFL. Allen. Darnell Mooney's pretty good. Man, their offense is boring. Number 1 will be Bama. It'll go Bama, Michigan, or Bama, Michigan, Georgia, or Bama, Georgia. 2-3 doesn't matter. Who wears dark color uniforms? Who wears white? Doesn't matter. And then Cincy. 5 will probably be Notre Dame. Because why would you? If you win 8 games a year, why try and be better? Come on. I hate teams that think that way. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. No, because I don't know if Utah can stop Ohio State's offense, but I don't know if Ohio State can stop Utah's offense. So it'll be fun. This year, yeah, kind of. I mean, both teams had 2 pretty good playoff contenders for most of the year in Georgia, Alabama, and then Ohio State, and Michigan. And then they both had a team that was like top 10, but like probably weren't playoff teams in Ole Miss and Michigan State. I think they're pretty comparable. I think the SEC is a touch better, but the SEC had a down year. The middle of the SEC, a lot of 6-6 teams: Auburn, Florida, Missouri. I know 13 teams are going bowling, but for that to happen, there has to be a lot of middling teams. A lot of 7-5, a lot of 6-6. Maybe. It depends how they look. Because if you win 24-3 against Iowa, I'm not going to go, yeah, you're better than Alabama. We'll find out soon. Well, Michigan. We won't find out about Ohio State. Freak. And by freak, I mean that's a good thing. He's a freak athlete. Yeah, I think a bunch of us did that today. I never counted them out, but I did pick Georgia to win. But there were a lot of people I know like Alabama has no shot. And I think in my pregame show, when I started talking, I made it sound like they had no shot. When I went back and listened to it a little bit. Yeah, nobody should ever do that again. Because, well, here's why. Oh, this game just needs to end. I mean, for so long we thought, Ohio State, for a long time there when they were beating up on Rutgers and Maryland and Michigan, especially the Michigan State game, we all thought they could because Georgia's pass D hadn't been tested, and it got tested today, and they didn't look good. That Ohio State could give Georgia a really good game, especially with those wide receivers, Olave, Wilson, Smith, and Jumba, Travion Henderson out of the backfield. No. But now, no. I mean, I guess because of the matchup they could, but how would that run D hold up against a bigger, better offensive line? Games like this, I don't know. And Michigan's offense is usually better than this. No, committee will never do that. We'll see. They're going to have a shot in a month. That's why the SEC page at SB Nation is called Team Speed Kills. But we'll see. We're not going to know. Probably. But this narrative could change in a month. So we'll see. Let's see. 2nd and 4, 47 seconds left. They're going to let Cade throw. And he dumps it off to Son Haskins. I know they're missing their Ronnie Bell, but my goodness gracious. False college football is a lot about style points. He never did pull Fromm. Again, Fromm did lead them to within inches of a national championship game. And I understand why he never put Fields in. But the more the Stetson Bennett JT did. Okay, Stetson Bennett's had a pretty good year. He threw 21 touchdowns, only 5 picks, had a pretty good QB rating. He was pretty good for what they wanted to do with complementary football with their elite defense. Today, I'm surprised he didn't pull. Just to see what he had, especially after the pick six when it was 38-17, and you can't run the ball anymore. You have to throw it, and Stetson's not going to throw you back into a game. JT Daniels probably can't either, but we don't know. And Stetson, the ceiling with JT is a natty. We don't know that because JT Daniels isn't playing and he can't stay healthy. True. And, again, I don't want to put any blanket statements on Georgia because very easily in a month we could be like, congrats to the Georgia Bulldogs on the 2022, I guess, national championship. I don't want to put anything on that because things could change so quickly. Just due so they're going to have us another shot. No, because I was going to have to score points, and they can't do that. You put Ritter on UGA, put better. Yeah, Desmond Ritter's a pretty good quarterback. Hello. Good to see you. What are your thoughts and reactions to the Alabama game? As we talk a little bit, we just go around college football. Let's see. UM's probably I don't know what sound it can be. Yes, but can J.J. McCarthy make the throws? I understand. Today, I didn't get why they didn't put J.T. Daniels in because JT, even if you lose today, you're still going to make the playoff unless you lost like 100-0. So why not give JT Daniels a shot? For Michigan, I understand why they kept with Cade because even in the loss to Michigan State, Cade played really, really well. So I understand why they haven't pulled Cade, and Michigan, yeah, you're going to have to, but you would think then everybody would have that game plan, and it only worked once, and it didn't even really work that well. Michigan still put up 33 points. Just Kenneth Walker scored 5 touchdowns and had a great day. But they did have the game-winning pick, so maybe it did. So I understand why Harbaugh isn't playing McNamara because this could be his shot at the playoff, and you don't blow that by trying to work in a QB. It seems that way. He's going to have another shot at it next year. Oh. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't understand why. That's why I don't understand why they didn't put him in this game. I don't understand why. Because, like I said, even if you lost, you were still in the playoff. There was no risk of missing the playoff this year with this game. So why not give JT a chance? Probably not. Because I don't think Cincy could hold their own at the point of attack. Now, the thing is Alabama played a great game today, and no one's going to deny that. They didn't look good against some other teams defensively. And especially in the run game. Like, they struggled with Mercer in the run game. They struggled to run the ball really well against that Mercer team. So maybe. Can Desmond Ritter make enough plays, and could Jerome Ford break off some runs? Because I like Cincinnati's secondary, but no one's slowing down Williams and Mechie. So we'll see. I don't think so, but I wouldn't be shocked. This was a really weird year. This was a really, really weird year. Not going to deny that. Because, well, you guys almost lost. You guys lost to Oregon. You didn't play Tulsa all that great. And then you beat up on like Maryland and Rutgers. And then everyone started hyping and then you barely didn't beat up on Penn State or Nebraska. And people started to hype the Buckeyes up. And I'm like, why? They didn't beat anybody. And then you destroyed Michigan State. And then I was like, oh, that's why the hype. Because Mel Tucker panicked. And it's like, okay, we're down 14-0. I'm not going to hand it off to my Heisman running back. But yeah, no, this year was weird. It'd be a slugfest. I don't think Michigan could run the ball on Georgia because when Michigan runs the ball, they just dominate the other team's defensive line. And I don't think they could do that against Georgia. And I don't know if Cade McNamara could make enough plays in the air to Georgia's or Michigan's wideouts. Now, on the flip side, Michigan's best attribute is pass rush, and against Georgia, that doesn't matter. But I think Michigan could get enough stops where the game would be interesting, but I wouldn't call. I don't know. There'll be plenty of time to break down these matchups. Yeah, I think. I mean, I know a lot of people just kind of counted out Alabama today, and that was they're going to be their playoff. And then when Oklahoma State lost, it's like, oh well, Notre Dame's in now, or Baylor now has a chance, even though people are really excited about that Baylor win. Yeah, they won, but they got 4 or 5 turnovers. Backup QB. They didn't play, and they won by 5. It's inches away from losing. So, good for Baylor. Awesome year for them. But okay, if I call it Quinn Ewers or Spencer Rattler in the portal. Apparently, Ewers wants to go back to Texas. He's looking at A&M. He's looking at the Longhorns. Spencer Rattler. Oh, man. And I know some programs are interested in him. I know South Carolina, Mizzou, Ole Miss. I know there's some programs interested in Mr. Rattler. But I don't know. Yeah, Michigan, Georgia. I wouldn't predict it today, but I could very easily see myself delving into the stats, looking into some things, and getting myself fairly excited for that game. Because there are some playoff games you get excited for because it's the playoff. I'm thinking like Alabama, Michigan State, circa 2015, where people are like, oh, Michigan State with Connor Cook, and then the game was 38-0, and you look at it and you go, yeah, that's about right. That's about right. That sounds about right. Rattler against Lincoln next year would be a lot of fun. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I know who tweeted out last night. Let me find the tweet. Because I saw he wanted to go. I saw that my school was interested, and I was like, I don't think anybody expected to see that. Come on, phone. It was the guy from Rivals, so I don't think anybody. Okay, so Mike Farrell of Rivals.com got a check mark. It was Ducks, UCLA, Gamecocks, Ole Miss, and Missouri. So, but we'll have all off season, or maybe tomorrow to talk about Rattler. We'll see what happens. All right, guys, get your last comments and questions in, because I'm going to get off for the night. I'm going to enjoy the end of these games, as you folks should too, and I'm going to go eat, get something to drink, and enjoy the rest of my Saturday. It's been a wild day. Texas Tech is in on him. I don't think I mentioned him because I don't think I took it seriously. Hey, no problem. Thanks for coming in, man. It was cool to see a Buckeye perspective on Alabama, Georgia. I don't think I took Texas Tech seriously because I'm like, Texas Tech. Oh, okay. Now you could say the same thing about Mizzou and South Carolina. So, but good for Texas Tech. I wouldn't call it a 99% chance, but good as any. Tonight, water. I don't know. Maybe I'll make a margarita or something, but I just kind of want to relax. This was fun. I went for 2 hours. I've gone for 3 hours a few times, but I can't do 3 hours today. I've been talking all day. He was, which is why it's a risk for anybody to pick him up in the transfer portal. But I want to thank Mark for letting me do this. If you're listening to this on playback, hope you all enjoyed yourselves. And subscribe to Voice of College Football. Subscribe. Let's see. I can see the analytics of actually who was on my channel. Subscribe to this champion channel. Subscribe to SEC at the Voice of College Football. Subscribe to the Alabama channel. We're going to be here previewing. I'm going to talk to Mark, see if I can do a show tomorrow about the bowl games, but we'll see. We'll get to that point. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to all our network of channels. There's a lot of people here, not just Mark, not just me, that do a lot of great work and love their teams, love the team they're covering, have a fun time, and know what they're talking about more than you'll see at any mainstream network whose goal it is to push a narrative. Here, we're not here to push a narrative. We're here to just talk about what happens on the field and have some fun. And I hope you all had fun. So let me get to these last few comments. That is a bold prediction, sir. I like it, though. That'd be super cool for Cincinnati. No, Georgia's not going to fall to 4 because the playoff committee isn't going to put an Alabama-Georgia rematch in the semifinal. Like, they're not going to have them play and then play the next game. It still can't beat Alabama. True. They had an undefeated. No, they didn't. They lost to Auburn. Never mind. I was thinking of 2017 and they lost the title game. I just saw a disgusting run by Kenny Pickett, but that's not that surprising. So I'm going to take off, guys. Thank you so much for watching. You all have a great night. Congrats to Alabama. And we'll see where today's craziness, and we'll see what today's craziness means for the landscape of this season tomorrow as the Bulls are announced and the playoff is announced. Have a great night. Thank you all.